Hi, we're going to talk about this word called obedience. And I would invite you to just be aware and pay attention to the feelings or the emotions that this word evokes in you. I believe our feelings and emotions are the treasure box of insight and growth. So, you know, just listening to that word obedience, what does that kind of bring up in you? Would be a good place to reflect on this week or this month or you may choose to stay with that feeling, or you might just want to um, use that for some time later. Um, and I mean, again, it's an invitation, so you can choose to do it, or if it doesn't make any sense to you, you can just leave it out. Yeah. Coming back to the word obedience, in the most literal and the most dictionary meaning of the word is listening to a command. It's something that is used to get a particular result, to get something done. Yeah. um, in our Indian context and in our Asian context, obedience comes with it's a heavy word. It comes as a value, it's a virtue, and especially in a parent-child relationship, it's kind of something that is looked up to. If a child is obedient and listens, it's considered something really great. Yeah. Now, and obviously there are all of these burdens or baggages that are attached to just this word obedience. So that's again something that we can keep reflecting on, and I can keep talking about. But we can reach the end result of obedience in two ways. One is through compliance, and the second is through cooperation. And both of these are essential in a parent-child interaction. Yeah, we need them to be compliant when what we want of them is immediate. Yeah, when it is dangerous and scary. For example, when we need to cross a road, or we're at a junction and you don't need your child running across, so you need to say stop. So compliance has to be used, so to say, as the means to reach obedience in that situation. Also, let's say when in any other situation where let's say they're trying to touch the hot stove, or situations where they're probably going to throw something, or they're going to hit someone. In those situations we have to obviously not just say stop or pause, but also use a certain level of physical restraint to stop them from doing something that might be risky for themselves or for someone else. Yeah. So there are very specific situations in which we will need to use compliance. In most other situations, what would be ideal to use is cooperation, and that's what's needed. Yeah, cooperation is, again, it's a more respectful, it's a more being on the same footing kind of an approach, where it definitely shows a lot of respect, and in a way honoring the person. Yeah. Now, how can you create cooperation with your child? I'm going to give you four tips, four ways, four go-tos that I use with my own kids. And there are different situations in which each of these can apply. And so let me name them for you. One is giving choices. Yeah. Two is elicit empathy. Okay. The third one is hearing them out, and the fourth one is to be, to use fun and to be creative. Okay. Now, I'm going to address each of these for one particular situation, and I think the most apt one right now is, and what I hear mostly from parents is about, picking up toys. How do I get my kid to like pick up toys? It just becomes this, um, you know sometime during the day, this is one thing that we need to get done, that we need them to obey. And most of the times, and I'm sure with experience we all know, if we just tell them pick up your toys, it's not going to happen. Just that statement is not going to happen. So I'm going to use this situation, and I'm going to go to these four tips that I mentioned, and see how the end result of picking up toys can be done in these four different ways. So the first one is choice, to give a choice. Yeah. Giving a choice is, comes from a place of, if you give a child a choice, you're giving them also ownership and the responsibility to see it through. Yeah. So in this particular case, usually, what I would tell my son is, do you want to pick up toys like uh, before you have your snack or after you have your snack? Notice that the end result is picking up the toys, but how it gets done and when it gets done is a choice that I'm giving my son. Also, both of those choices should be okay with you. Both of those choices should be okay with me. If I need something done immediately, then maybe this is not a choice that I would give him, and I would probably go for some other tip, one of the other tips that I would use. So the things that you need to notice about, when you're using choice, is that both the choices should be okay with you. And two, the end result is the same, but how it gets done is what is different. Yeah. The second one is to elicit empathy. Now, for my case, I would say something like, auntie's gonna come tomorrow to sweep up. So before she sweeps up, she's gonna have to pick up all the toys, and how's she gonna feel about that? And my son would say, sad, upset, tired. And then I would, do the next thing, ask the next thing about, okay, is there anything we can do to make it better? And he'd usually respond with, yeah, maybe we could pick it up, and make it better for her. So that's the second one, where they can where they choose to do something to help someone else, to make someone else feel better, and that in turn makes them feel good too. Yeah. So and who doesn't want to feel good? So that's the second tip. The third one is hearing them out. I believe that to the extent that you can understand is the extent that you will be understood. And that holds good for our kids. If there are times when my son just, outright refuses and says, no, I don't want to do it, and, those are times when I need to just kind of stop for that moment and say, you don't feel like doing it. Yeah, sometimes even I don't feel like doing it, or you've been playing so long, obviously you're like, you're feeling tired now, and it's just such a big task to now pick it all up and put it in. And a lot of times just acknowledging that, to give words to his feeling, or or even trying to attempt, just trying to understand why he's refusing to do it, kind of plays the trick. So in that moment of, okay, she understands, or she accepts what I'm going through, gives me the opportunity to kind of go the next step and say, do you want to do it together? Will that help? Or do you want to do it in some time, like, give yourself a 5-minute break, or do you want to read a book first and then do it, to so just being understood plays a big role in getting to obedience, or getting something done. The fourth one is fun, and this is what is my usual go-to. Something as simple as, oh wow, all the animals are outside and it's getting dark, so let's see how high the animals can jump and get into the basket. And that usually just gets my son going, so he'll come jumping with this cheetah, and cheetah is fast, and then he jumps in, and then everybody jumps in, and we're done with picking up toys. So, and one of the crucial things of getting a task done, so to say, is to not make it feel like a task. Nobody likes doing a task. I don't like doing it. I'm sure you don't like doing it, and definitely not our kids. As soon as it sounds like a task, like something, like a heavy duty something I need to do, as human beings, we'll just rebel. It's very normal for us to, oh my gosh, that's just such a tedious thing to do, I don't want to do it. So uh, over time now, I have realized that, and I've noticed that, my son kind of automatically picks up toys by the end of the day. Those are obviously magical days, but and they are rare, but they do happen. So for him, picking up toys is not like a task. It's something that is just part of the things he does. It's something that you do. When playtime's over, you pick it up. When the day is over, so we need to pick it up. And keep it safe, so that the next day I still have access to them and I've not lost them. And so it's something that he does without feeling that it is a task. Yeah, so I think that's something to keep in mind also, with regard to a lot of other chores that we would want our kids to do. And to keep in mind that we don't just want them to do it because they have to be done, but because they want to do it. They enjoy doing it, and it just becomes part of their routine. So these are the 4 tips. And the next time you catch yourself saying, or either you're saying, or in your head you're like, why can't he just listen, or when he's arguing with you, just because I said so, I said it, so just do it, or when you're thinking, how many times do I need to tell this kid to do this, or not to do this, and he's not listening. Maybe that's when we need to just hit pause and say, okay, what is, these are definitely times when the obedience is kicking in us. It's triggering something in us which has got to do with obedience. So number 1, to pause and reflect, and 2, to make the choice. Do you want compliance in this moment, or does this situation call for compliance, or does this situation call for cooperation? And then kind of taking the next step of how you want to make that happen. So these are just some guidelines that we can use, or all of us can use in different situations. And like I said, depending on how you're feeling and how your kid is feeling, it could be you can use either of these tips given the situation. So you need to be in tune with yourself, you need to be in tune with what needs to be done, and in tune with what your kid is going to be receptive to in that moment. So if I need something done immediately, I'm definitely not going to go in and use a choice of doing it later. I'd rather just use fun and get it done, so to say. So also, none of these tips are don't try to think that we're being manipulative. That a lot of times when I share with parents about different things that we can use and we can try and experiment, they think, oh, but it just sounds so fake, it sounds like we're manipulating, but But the question is that true? Like, is that really manipulative, where you're making a choice um, um, to induce cooperation in your child? Or do you just want them to be compliant? Do you just want them to obey for the sake of obeying? Or you want them to think for themselves and make those choices and decisions and cooperate with you? um, it's a choice that we hold. It's a choice that we hold um, in the tone, in the words that we use, and in the way we kind of put that across. So, and that also defines our relationship with our child. A relationship of respect, a relationship of looking at the kid as an individual, as a person, as someone with his own identity. So yeah, so these are things that we can reflect on, and use the tips, and get back to me. Let me know how it works, and if it doesn't work, and what are the other things that you guys do.